Good morning, Morai, Verabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We're continuing on Masechet Succah, and we are in the Mishnah, in the middle of Membet Amud Aleph. Today's Amud is being learned as a Zchut Rufah Shlema for Rachel bat Edna, for Rachel Simcha bat Nahid, Michael ben Nahid, Esther Bracha bat Chaya, Rabbi Avraham ben Tajgol, all have Rufah Shlema b'toch Sha'ar Cholei Yisrael. Amen. This Amud is also learned as a zchut for the neshama of Jacqueline bat Avraham and Agdas. And this month's learning of the community has been dedicated by the Shea family, Dayan family, and Cohen families. It should be an ultimate zchut for all their mishpachot. Amen. So we are continuing on the halachot of taking lulav and etrog on Chag HaSukkot, and here we're going to be discussing some of the halachot as they pertain to women and children. Says the Mishnah, Mekabelet isha miyad bena umiyad bala, umachazirato lemayim b'Shabbat. A woman could take the arbat haminin from her child or from her husband and return it to the water on Yom Tov or on Shabbat. So it says the Mishnah, specifically a woman. Now we have to know why a woman. Why not, Adam machazir et lulavo lemayim b'Shabbat. And the halacha, as we will see it, will be a hilchot muktzeh question. Is the lulav etrog hadas v'arava muktzeh for a woman? Or maybe it's not. But when you can't use something, it will be a halacha, a problem of muktzeh. Like, for instance, this year, Pesach, next week, it's going to be Erev Pesach Shchal Yod b'Shabbat. And the matzah that you can't use on Erev Pesach, right? Perhaps, according to some, will become muktzeh. On Shabbat, you will not be handling the matzah on Shabbat. The matzah that you will be yotze. I'm not talking about matzah shira or matzah mevushelet. So if you can't use it as a woman, maybe it should be muktzeh for the woman. And says the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, well, this that the Mishnah says, the woman could return the lulav and hadas v'arava into the water on Shabbat is a very specific topic, because there are three different categories of what you could do as putting plantation vegetation into the water. Says Rabbi Yehuda, B'Shabbat machaziran, on Shabbat machazirin, you could return it to the same water you took them out from, but you cannot add any water to that water. And certainly you cannot change the water and put brand new water. Can't do that. B'Yom Tov mosifin, on Yom Tov, you could add water to the original water. You could put some fresh water in. U'Bamoed machalifin, when it comes to the Chol HaMoed, you could and you should, says Rashi, change the water, refresh it. It keeps the arbat minim fresh and crisp and nice, and therefore that's what you should do. This is in time of Chazal, what they used to do to keep the arbat minim fresh. They would, whenever they're not using it, they would keep it in the water. So says Rabbi Yehuda, three categories. On Shabbat, you could only return to the same water. On Yom Tov, you could also add some water to it. And on Chol HaMoed, you could exchange the water, put fresh water. Now, katana yodea lenanea, says the Mishnah, chayav belulav. A minor under bar mitzvah that knows how to do ninuim, knows how to shake the lulav, he is chayav to take a lulav for himself. His father is chayav. The language of the Shulchan Aruch is aviv chayav liknot lo lulav, that his father is obligated, because at the end of the day, it's not necessarily his. It becomes debatable. The the Shulchan Aruch is deviating from the language of the Mishnah. The Mishnah says a katan, a minor that knows how to do nanuim, he is chayav to take lulav. The Shulchan Aruch says his father is chayav to buy him a lulav. Now, generally speaking, the obligation of chinuch falls on the father, perhaps not the mother, that the father has to see to it that when a child is ready for mitzvot, that he is trained to do those mitzvot properly. And a katan having a lulav of his own is because if you give your lulav, your etrog, your hadas, your arvat to the katan, you can give it to him, but you cannot take it back from him. A katan, so if you only have one set, you have to first do your own obligation before you give it to him. Because if you give a matana, if you give something to a katan to own, he could acquire things for himself halachically, but he can't give away a kinyan. He can't be makneh. So therefore, if you didn't do your own mitzvah, your son gets up early in the morning and says, okay, matana al minat lachzir, and he takes it, now you're stuck, because now you don't have ulkachtem lachem anymore, it's your son's now. And you can't take it back from him, you have to go get from somebody else that's adult, a matana al minat lachzir. But nevertheless, a katan that knows how to shake a lulav, the father has to get him, he should be shaking a lulav. Now, you notice that there's a big problem over here. We just got finished saying in the previous daf that the mitzvah of taking lulav and etrog is what? From the moment that you pick it up. You pick up the lulav and etrog, hadas, araba, and etrog together, and you're already yotze, your obligation. And if you remember, we pointed out there, contrasting it with this future Mishnah, which is now, right now, that over there it's mashma that nanuim is not a thing. The moment that you take it, before you shook anything, you're already fulfilled your obligation of lulav etrog hadas aravan. You're good. So what does this mean? That katan hayodea lenanea. Why not katan hayodea litol? Al netilat lulav. A katan that knows how to properly hold the four species together, you should already buy him a lulav. No, the Mishnah says he has to be katan hayodea lenanea. It's older. Has to be someone that could not just take the lulav, but also knows how to do the nanuim. So the Khatam Sofer writes over here, and again, there's a lot of literature on this, but Khatam Sofer says that the nanuim is halakha Moshe B'Sinai, he writes, right? So therefore, even though that midoraita, you fulfilled your obligation by just taking the lulav and the arba minim, but for the age, you need a person that is proper to do the nanuim as well. Not just hold it in his hand, but has to be old enough to be able to do that, because even though that the bare bone mitzvah midoraita is taking him, but you should also shake it. So therefore, when you talk about the age appropriate for the katan to start chinuch, is the age that he could at least do the nanuim on top of taking the lulav. So that's our Mishnah. Says the Gemara, pshita. This is pashut. Why wouldn't the woman be able to take you took it. If I can take the lulav al Shabbat, Yom Tov, so why can't my wife take it from me on Shabbat Yom Tov? Why isn't that a pashut halacha? Pshita. He says no. Maybe you would have thought because the woman is not obligated to shake lulav. She's not a bat chiyuvahi. Ema lot kabel. Maybe we would have thought that she should not be able to handle the arba minim. It should be muktzeh for her. What's her business? Handling the lulav etrog hadas v'arava. She's not mechuyevet. If I am mechuyav, so fine, so I have a mitzvah, I have to take it. But if she doesn't have the mitzvah, maybe it should be, like we spoke about matzah this year on Shabbat, maybe it should be a problem of carrying it, on handling it on Shabbat. Says the Gemara Kamash Malan, it teaches you that no, it's not an issue. Now, the reason for that is because even though that Kol mitzvot aseh shazman graman nashim pturot, any positive time-bound mitzvah women are patur from, but they could obligate themselves to do it if they want to. Now there's machloket Rambam and Tosafot whether or not they could also obligate themselves to say bracha on it. Can a woman opt to say, well, I am sitting in the sukkah and I'm going to say leshe basukah, right? I'm going to take arba minim and I'm going to say al netilat lulav. So the Ashkenazim, generally speaking, they follow the psak of the Tosafot. That Tosafot holds they could bring themselves lideh chiyuv and therefore also say bracha, even though that says vesivanu and they're not obligated, but they could bring themselves to the obligation if they want to opt for it. And as far as them, generally speaking, follow the psak of the Rambam that women cannot obligate themselves, cannot opt for saying a bracha on mitzvah shazman grama, right? Chaobadia used to go in his young years. This is his son. One of his sons mentioned this in the shiur. He said we would be kids, we would be little kids, and we would go with my father on Chol Moed to the area of the Mikdash, because as we mentioned before, many Gedolim, Rabbi Yashiv used to do this, or Shazar Arbach, used to, they would go to the area of the Mikdash for the days of Chol Moed, because again, Lulav niteret ba Mikdash Shiva, Kol Shiva, so they would want to be there to maybe elevate that thing, and he would learn in a Bet Midrash next door. So one of the Iraqi women, this is Arvadia's son, Rabbi Yitzchak is saying this over. He remembers it as a kid, having gone to that area with Chaobadia, and Chol Hamoed as a child, and says there's this woman, the Iraqi woman, that wanted to take the lulav and trok of Chaobadia and shake. So she asks him, I don't know if Arabic or not Arabic. She asks him, says, can I? He says, yeah, but tvarchi or not tvarchi? So are you going to say bracha or not going to say bracha? And she says, of course I'm going to say bracha. And he says, go find somebody else. I'm not going to give you a lulav and a trog if you're going to say, because he felt that this was a minhag b'ta'ut. And therefore, if you say it according to Marash Charuch, it's going to become bracha lebatala. Because bracha she'ena tzricha, and unnecessary bracha is bracha lebatala, and then therefore it's going to be lifnei iver lo titen michshel. I can't provide that opportunity for you because I'm putting a stumbling block in front of someone that doesn't know any better. So he felt that it's a problem. But be as it may, both for the Rambam and the Tosafot, she could opt for doing the mitzvah, right? Correct that the Gemara says gadola mesuveh ve'oseh yoter mimishen mesuveh ve'oseh. A bigger mitzvah is when you're obligated to the mitzvah than someone that doesn't have the obligation. But certainly you get a mitzvah. Certainly you get a mitzvah. So therefore, that pushes away the potential issue of muktzeh for women. Says the Gemara, and again, what we take from it, the didan is that this year there's actually a shaila of muktzeh for the Shabbat Erev Pesach with the matzah, because asur to eat matzah on the day of, at least the Ben Ish Chai holds that even the night before actually will be asur to eat matzah. This actually has an afkamina for how you opt to do your seuda on Friday night. According to the Ben Ish Chai, you can't be yotze the seuda of Friday night with matzah, because you can't eat matzah on Erev Pesach. On Erev Pesach starts from me'erev ad erev. It starts from the night before. So the night before you already cannot eat matzah. You have to eat either bread or a matzah mevushelet because it's asur, right? And that actually infuses the whole thing with the halachot of muktzeh. Also, and muktzeh l'chatzi Shabbat, Ramban, Tosafot. It becomes a whole thing, which is we're not doing psachim, we're doing Masechet Succah. But again, one thing that is shared over here is this she'ela of muktzeh. Says the Gemara, Katana yodea lenanea, This, that a minor is obligated, or his father is obligated to buy him arba minim as soon as he knows how to shake the lulav. This leads us to a whole braita of piskei din for ketanim, halachot of minors. Tanu Rabbanan, katana yodea lenanea chayav belulav. A minor that knows how to shake lulav, he is obligated to have his own lulav and etrog. His father has to buy it for him. He is obligated. We already spoke about the language of Shulchan Aruch. Says the Gemara, lehitatev chayav betzitzit. As soon as he knows how to properly wrap the talit and wear his tzitzit and keep it on and properly keep it clean and so on and so forth, then he is obligated to wear tzitzit. Or his father is obligated to train him to wear tzitzit. Lishmor tefillin, how to keep tefillin, then he's going to be aviv lokeach lo tefillin. All of a sudden you see the change of language in the Gemara. Instead of saying chayav betefillin, aviv lokeach lo tefillin. His father, maybe if you have a chance to come back to this, why the change of the language. Aviv lokeach lo tefillin. His father is obligated to get, now tefillin, keeping tefillin is not just keeping it in its place and properly wrapping it, it's also keeping yourself in a guf naki, not going into the bathroom, not letting gas. All those things are part and parcel of lishmor tefillin. You know how to halachically keep a tefillin on you without stumbling into any problems halachically. Yodea ledaber. As soon as the katan knows how to speak, he starts speaking. Aviv lomedot Torah. The father has to teach him Torah. What does that mean? You should come to Amud Yomi? No, the Gemara says it's Torah v'kriyat Shema. Right? You have to. I'm not saying not, but saying Torah v'kriyat Shema. Torah, what is it? What's the Torah that you have to teach him? Not that he has to actually learn Mishtayot or Chumash, but there's one specific pasuk that he has to start saying. That should be the first thing that Katan learns how to say, and that is the pasuk Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov. Moshe Rabbeinu commanded us the Torah, and it's an inheritance for keilat Yaakov, for the entire kahal of Am Yisrael. Okay, this is the first thing. It's a beautiful thing if you think about it. So this is your morasha. This is your inheritance. The first thing he says is, Torah is mine, right? It's a tremendous thing if you think about it. You see, the only morasha that you could leave off from yourself is the Torah. People work a whole lifetime to amass wealth. Well, wealth is very subjective because it only depends on currencies. You know, if a currency of a place is, let's call it copper, right? So you gather a lot of copper and you go somewhere else, that's like nothing. It's not a thing. So then you just wasted your life because the currency is not valuable here, right? The story of the guy with the potatoes, right? That's everyone knows, in Diamond Land and potatoes. And this is the truth. The truth is, you come to this world, this world seems to have its own glitz and glamour of currencies, right? The real estates and the status and the cars and the this and the that. But then you get to the 80s and 90s, and you look at this currency. It's not really the currency. So the first thing you tell the kid to speak is Torah Sibaranu Moshe Morasha Keilat Yaakov. The only morasha, the only thing that you could leave off that is actual currency is the Torah. The Torah Shesiva Lanu Moshe. This is a truthful Torah, the same Torah that we got from Moshe Rabbeinu, the unbroken chain of command, and this is the only thing that will be left over afterwards. This is a powerful, powerful thing if you think about it. The kid starts speaking, and the chinuch starts from the first moment. So says the Gemara, Kriyat Shema Mahi. What's the Kriyat Shema? Pasuk Rishon. We're not talking about the entire 3 parashiyot of Shema, Ve'haya, and Vayomer. We're only talking about the first pasuk, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Right? So those are the the two things when it comes to speaking, a kid that knows how to speak, lomdo Torah ve'kriyat Shema. So 2 psukim it is that you have to teach a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, whenever they start talking, is Torah Sibala Moshe Moshe Kirat Yaakov, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. So says the Gemara, Hayodeh Lishmor Gufo, Ochlin al Gufo Ta'arot. A kid that is old enough, that knows how to keep his body tahor. This is not talking about keeping yourself clean. This is talking about keeping yourself tahor in relation to taharot. You want to know if his body touched something truma, it's taharot. Can I eat the taharot? So if the kid understands not to go to a tent of a met, someone died, and he knows I can't enter this room, because if I do, then my body is going to be tamimit. Then I touch something, the whole thing is going to become tamim. Again, in the time of Chazal, people lived with that mindset, that they were alerted about tumah, so not touching corpses, not going to the funerals in that way, and so on and so forth, keeping himself tahor. If he knows how to do that, then you could Ochlin al gufo tarot. If his body touched the tarot, you could, trust him when he says that he did not become tameh. You could trust him and eat tarot. Lishmor et yadav is a higher level. If he knows how to also keep his hands, yadayim askaniot. It's one thing not to go to a chapel funeral. Remember, that's a big thing. I didn't go there. That I knew the halakha. But the hands are askaniot. You touch all kinds of different things. So if he knows how to keep his hands from safek tum'ah, then you could eat tarot even on his hand. Not just when his body touched something, but even if he handled it with his hand, you still could. That's a higher level of mindfulness. And it's an older age that you could also eat something that he handled with his hands. Hayodeh li sha'el. This is, needs a little preface. A child that could be asked questions and he will give clear answers. Did you become tameh? Yes. No. I don't know. He could handle questions and answer them properly. This kid has the halachot of regular tumah v'tahara. Regular tumah v'tahara if you have safek. Again, and he says, you ask him, he says, did you become tameh? And he says, I don't know. I don't remember. Right? This is a kid that could be asked and answered properly. You could say, yes, I became tameh. No, I know for sure I didn't become tameh. Or he says, I don't know. So in scenario that he says, I don't know, so we deal with that as a legitimate safek. What's a legitimate safek? Legitimate safek of tum'ah, b'reshut hayachid, if it happened, the safek happened in reshut hayachid, in a private domain, is safeko le'achmir, right? It will be machmir, that is tameh. In reshut harabim, right, is safeko tahor. The safek is la'akir, is tahor. So therefore, depending on where this kid touched it, it will be either tahor or tameh. Because we deal with his knowledge as a real knowledge, and when he says, I don't know, we deal with it as a real safek. If he's not old enough, and this is, by the way, we learned this in Masechet Succah and Daf Kaf Chet. There the Gemara learns from Sotah, that just like a woman, Sotah knows how to answer, Yodea Lishael, Yodat Lishael, also by people is only a person that's Yodea Lisha. If a child is not Yodea Lisha, is young enough that he doesn't understand these things, can't be asked and trusted on the answers, so then but even Bereshut Hayachid Sefekot Tahor. It will be lenient even in Reshut Hayachid will be lenient on his suffix because it's not a real suffix. So says the Gemara. Hayodeh lifros kapav, a minor kohen that knows how to do nesiat kapayim, right? Hayodeh lifros, or in the case that the Gemara is, this is again Machloket Rashi. This is a massive Machloket Rashi and Tosafot over here. So we'll just go with Rashi that back in the day, the katan would not be nosei kapav, right? So hayodea lifros kapav cholki lo truma bebeit hagranot. Everyone knows that he's bar mitzvah because he publicly goes to duchen. So everyone sees this. Oh, he's okay, fine. He's a responsible kid. He definitely knows how to keep taharot when he give him taharot to handle. Right? You're giving him like nuclear items. Like, it's like you mishandle taharot and the whole thing becomes tameh and wavila, right? It's not a good thing. So therefore, you don't want to publicly give him taharot in Bet HaGranot. Bet HaGranot is where you had the piles of grains, and the Kohanim would come there to take their truma. So can I, in Bet HaGranot, publicly in front of dozens and hundreds of people, give teruma, give taharot to a little kid? So if he is nosei kapav, if he publicly does duchening, everyone knows that he's bar mitzvah, he's responsible, he's good, he's old enough, and therefore it's not disgrace for the teruma. If you publicly give teruma to someone that looks like a little kid, that's disgraceful for the kavod of teruma, that you're handling teruma with someone that's not reliable. Even though that you know he's reliable. You know that this kid knows how to handle himself. Other people don't know. Therefore, you're not allowed to publicly give it to him. You could privately send it to his house if you know that he's responsible, but you can't publicly give it to him. But someone that's duchening in public, people know, oh, he's bar mitzvah, he's old enough, he's responsible, then that's not disgraceful for giving him public teruma. Therefore, it would be fine, and hence the words of the Gemara, hayodea, a person that knows how to duchen, lifros kapav, cholkin lo teruma bebet hagranot. You could even do it publicly. But if he doesn't do nosei kapav, and you happen to know that he's a very responsible person, you could send it privately to their home. Just don't give it to them publicly in bet hagranot. Hayodea lishchot, a minor, an under bar mitzvah that knows how to shecht. Knows how to shecht, right? He knows how, and how to shecht is not just the halachot. Obviously, there are many halachot pertaining to shechita. There are 5 major psulim of the shechita. And hayodea lishchot means he knows to handle. His hands don't shake when he holds the knife in his hand. He could handle the animal, he could handle the knife, he could do a proper responsible shechita, and this is the first mishnah in Chulin, right? Hakol shechatin, right? They could do shechita, but there's stipulations to it, and says the Gemara, says the Braita, hayodea lishchot ochlim shechitato. You could eat from his shechita if you know that this kid knows how to shecht. You could eat from his shechita, but listen to this, Amar Rav Huna says, Vehu shegadol omed lagabav. He can't be alone when he does shechita. It has to be supervised by a gadol. Why? Because, well, very easy. Some of the things you could see afterwards, right? If you go and see an animal that was geschachten, already shechted, so you go check the simanim, you see that they didn't cut through the rings and they did it the proper place. And if it was rov echad or rov shenayim, but depending on what creature it is, you could check all of those things, right? But certain things you can't check, right? For instance, two of the 5 halachot of shechita is sheya and derisa. If you are shechting and someone comes, you get a phone call, right? So you hold the knife to pick up or just wait a little bit, just a slide, and then you continue. That's pasul. Can't do sheaf. It has to be in one continuous shechita. Can't stop in the middle. And you can't do derisa, you can't chop. Even though the knife is, and that's why you have to also be strong, because especially if you're dealing with an elderly fellow with a knife of shechita for animals. You've seen those knives, it's like a sword. It's like a large, heavy thing. And if you're not handling it properly, you could be pushing down, and that will cut like butter through anything, right? My friends, when we were learning shechita together, he was sharpening his chalaf, his sakin, in the basement of his home, and he lost control because you have to hold it in a very gentle way when you're going over the stone. and he lost control of it, and he fell. He fell just passing his, his leg barely. He didn't even feel it, and he got 45 stitches or something. That's it's a very, very dangerous thing when you're dealing with these types of things. You have to, but the same thing is, if you push it down, that's one of the 5 psulei shchita. So how do you know if he did it or not? You come afterwards and you check it. You can't know. You can't know if it was like this or if it was like this. So therefore, you have to be there with a supervision of a gadol to check that he does it properly. But the fact that if he did it properly, and you know he did it properly, if it's a katana yodea lishchot, then you could eat from his shchita afterwards. The fact that he's a minor does not ruin that. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Huna, Bush gadol omed al gabav, yachol leechol kazayit dagan. The moment that the katan could eat kazayit dagan, a kazayit of grain, marchikin mesoato. Now his excrement is considered a halachic excrement. That you can't daven in front of it, you can't say brachot in front of it, you have to be marchik yourself, and all the halachot that you have for tzoah, and also from his urine. For urine, you have to be marchik arba amot. Obviously, when there's no smell and all the halachot that are discussed in Shulchan Aruch, Amar Rav Chisda, v'ush yachol leochlo b'chdach tilat pras. That's only when a katan could eat the kazayit of dagan in real halachic achila within 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Kedach tilat pras. Amar Rav Chia bered Rav Yeba. Rav Chia bered Rav Yeba said, there is an age already, 6 or 7 years of age. When it says gadol, it doesn't mean bar mitzvah. 6 or 7 years of age, even if he's not eating fast, even if he's not eating kazayit tichtat pras, then still would be considered a gadol in a sense that his so'ah and meraglayim is considered excrement halachically, and you have to distance yourself. So at so'ah of a 2-year-old, it becomes a question. 2 months old is not considered so'ah even, right? To say bracha in front of it, you're doing brit milah and the kid made, and do you have to change him and clean him? No, he could, technically speaking, if you're in the middle of a thing, you could say the bracha and there's no problem. Kazayit sali, if the kid could eat a kazayit of kebab, of roasted meat, shochatina alav et pesach. You could count him in the menuyim of Korban Pesach and shecht on him. And Rabbi Yehuda says no, it depends. Shenemar ish lefi ochlo. It says ish lefi ochlo. It depends on achila. So if you could eat it kazayit, the minimum of Korban Pesach is kazayit. Therefore, you could count him in. Rabbi Yehuda says at sheyachol levarer achila. He has to be at the age that he can't just be fed kazayit and eat it, but he could actually handle himself of what is food and what is not food. Ish lefi ochlo means he could determine what's a food, what's not, and that is the age. Ketzat, how do you determine it? Notnin lo stror vezorko, it goes v'notlo. If you have a round piece of pebble, stone, that looks like a walnut, and you give him a walnut and this stone, he knows to throw this stone and to take the walnut. He knows what's food and what is not food, and that is the age that the food of Korban Pesach could be counted up on him as one of the menuim of Korban Pesach. Hadran alach lulav hagazul, and Be'ezrat Hashem will continue to start the Lulav V'Arava, the 4th perek in the days to come.